Well, I'm here with Dr. Matt Diduro. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
I'm excited.
Well, this is exciting because this is new technology that changed my family's life. Not just me, but my son, my wife. I can actually go down the whole list. My son Isaac. Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, I also would say that blessed to coach doctors around the world, and we've had almost 19, I think, doctors purchase this technology.
Some of the early adopters.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, wonderful. And we're getting this technology out to our communities, and they're going to be helping more people, which I'm so excited about.
Yeah.
And this is such a versatile device that some people, they don't even believe it.
Okay, well, so it's called the stem cell machine,
Yes.
TRT, tissue regenerative therapy. I mean, all these different names, right? Let's talk about this because, first of all, I want to excite our viewers because I made the comment that this changed, our family's life. And as you'll see in a second, my son broke his back. He was told he would not walk for 12 to 15 weeks. If he had surgery, he would maybe walk in a month. Mm-hmm. Well, we never did the surgery. We opted out for different reasons, one of which was permanent hardware in his spine, which can lead to other problems later. And fact was he walked in 2 weeks. And this technology was part of, I was doing other things, but part of the reason why we had so much miraculous healing where the doctors shrugged their shoulders. Okay, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. Sports teams are using this to get their athletes back in the game, saving millions of dollars. They're even doing it to prevent injuries. There's another aspect. Diabetics are using this technology for wounds that wouldn't heal. As a matter of fact, I believe, and you can bring life to this, that they're using it in Germany and Austria as like, this is what you do first when you have something that will not heal.
This is used in all 11 trauma centers in Austria, and we're really excited because this technology has helped millions of people in that country.
Right.
So we're lucky to have it here, and it's catching some steam, and to you guys. I really am grateful that we connected.
My goal is to bring the technology to as many people as I can because it changed our life, and that's why I'm doing this. And you, matter of fact, led me to this technology, so thank you.
Well, it's funny.
My son.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. My son.
One call. That's
one call.
After I worked on one call, and
that's what I said. I was like, okay, I'm interested to look at it, and then I dug through the scientific research. Honestly, you sent me a lot.
There was over 120 peer-reviewed studies, and I remember you were on a flight from West Coast to East Coast, and you went through it all, and you actually consumed it, and then kind of were able to give it to me in a way that we could teach it to our patients. Yeah, that was comprehensible.
That's kind of my process. I take it. I want to see the research that's there just to see if it's real, and then from there I want to try it myself, and then from there I bring it to my doctor group, and then they start trying it. Went past every bit of that to bring it to, now we're bringing it to them. So I really do believe this is unbelievable technology that has a chance to make a difference in so many different conditions. So if you're watching this, it goes beyond the conditions I just mentioned.
I'll make the claim also that every regenerative medicine clinic is going to have this device in the near future, because
as are stem cell clinics,
anti-aging, a lot of chiropractic clinics are going to want this because it speeds healing, accelerates, the way the body is innately built to work, and you get less visits and better outcomes, and that's really what we're seeing. So,
no, and that's what the public wants to hear, and I hope that's what doctors want to hear.
Yeah, it saves everybody money and time.
Yeah.
So,
well, let me start into it because I mentioned my son's story, and many of you watching this have no clue of what I'm talking about. But I'm going to actually pull to a picture here. If you look at this first picture, that cliff that you're looking at, and that little stick figure up there, that was my son who. Ridiculously and stupidly decided him and his friends and my other son were going to jump off this 60-foot cliff. Yeah, that's 60 foot. And if you see that little outcrop, little cliff there halfway down, about where the fourth red dot is, that's all they could see from the top. And they couldn't see the cliff below where that X is. And so he decided he was going to be first. Now, the one kid that jumped there there was a way that you would jump to
A certain angle.
Yes,
they needed, yeah.
but he was in the woods going to the bathroom. That's the true story. And my oldest son, Daniel, decided to jump anyway. And not seeing that out cliff, he literally dropped 50 feet and hit dead rock. He should have been dead, and he should have been paralyzed, but he was neither. And I have to say this because my wife chose that little scripture you see there. And, it talked about, angels and armies protecting us. Oddly, I was the one who took this picture.
You were in the lake.
I wasn't in the lake, but I was on the other side of it.
Okay.
And I was there to make sure that the kids didn't do anything stupid. And I'm going, oh my God, this is really stupid. So I was looking down at my phone trying to call or text one of them to say, okay, you don't see what I see. And then I heard splash. And that's when thank God my head was in my phone because I didn't see him hit. But I knew something was wrong. Long story. I prayed for angels, actually, as I was looking for their call to protect my son, which I never do. I may pray, but I don't typically pray for angels. And so that scripture means a lot to my wife. And that says God. My wife says G-D to say God. It gives him honor and respect. But anyway.
And the saving grace in this is Daniel's cat-like reflexes, because he was able to take some of the impact with his ankles, his feet, his wrists.
He hit feet first, fractured his calcaneus, which is your heel, and then his wrist, which did take some of the impact, but then he hit square on his butt. And this picture doesn't quite do it justice, but that vertebra is 60% crushed. Now what you can't see is every bit of the vertebra is broke. There's a medial part, which they call the pillar, the pars. When you go all the way back, every portion of the vertebra was basically fractured. All the facets, everything down there, the transverse processes, etc. Many levels actually had fractures, but the two vertebrae, T10 and T11, were crushed and floating.
Compression fracture.
Yes.
Toward the front, anterior.
Yeah.
And how lucky is he that a piece of that fragment didn't get into the spinal cord?
Well, you read that, if you look at the slide there, 75% of this type statistically end in paralysis. First of all, he should have been dead, literally, and then he should have been paralyzed. He was neither, so give God the glory for that.
Absolutely.
But as I said, it was part of his fast recovery was, in fact, the stem cell machine, right? Because,
yes.
He was literally up on his feet 2 weeks. When we were doing the 2-week x-ray just to see if these vertebral bodies would even hold anything, and already they held. And he went on to walk. Matter of fact, I believe he was in Europe in 2 months. So 3 months maybe. I forget. But he was out walking around, able to travel the world when they said he wouldn't walk. So
the thing I was so amazed at was how quick his ankles and calcaneus healed. Because, that would usually take someone 6-7 weeks before they could put pressure on.
And the problem there is that the fractures in his spine, which they said he basically that would keep him from walking or even being upright. We thought it would be that, but it was in fact the heel. He tore his hamstring too.
That's right.
So the
black and blue.
Oh yeah, well his butt was black. Well, you remember? I don't want to be graphic, but his butt and the other private part black.
All along.
Black. Yeah. I chose not to show that picture, but at my seminar I in fact did. The bottom line though is okay. Let's get into it from here. Why did this technology have such an impact on speeding up not only his bone, but the ligaments, all of it were able to heal so much faster, which we've seen now with other people. Again, I've experienced it in my knee. My wife experienced it with different things that she had on. And I'll tell you, I experienced it also from just a hormone optimization. Sure. Because if you do this technology on your privates, it doesn't hurt, by the way, so it wasn't like, you'd think shockwave technology, which we'll talk about here in a second, would hurt, but it didn't. But it raises testosterone 23%. Am I right on that number?
Right.
20%, something like that?
I think we're one of the first clinics in the country that developed a preventative ED. It's a disease that I know I never want, or a condition, and many of my friends and buddies, they don't want that.
So it helped me there, but I didn't have ED. I didn't have anything there, but I just used it for performance.
Listen, the way I looked at it is if it helps 65% of men with erectile dysfunction that don't benefit from Viagra, Cialis, or Levitra.
Yeah, but who wants those anyway?
Why wait to get to that point?
Right.
Again, prevention is the key to this. So
and within 6 treatments, the success rate is through the roof.
65%.
Yeah.
And Dr. Erwin Goldstein, who helped us with a lot of these slides, who San Diego Sexual Health and Medicine, he is now at 80% because now he's treating the lower back as well. Not only the genitals, but also the lumbar plexus. And I have some slides later on. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. And by the way, my doctors who got this technology, they're doing that, and the results are unbelievable. Maybe we'll be able to tell some of those stories.
I'll show you. Yeah, I've got a couple cool things.
It's awesome. So, this technology, it works for these. We mentioned erectile dysfunction. We mentioned just performance because of the hormone optimization. It also, my son Isaac had unfixable. We did everything. PRP, prolozone, exosome, and it still wasn't healing. Some of that helped, but it wasn't healing. This technology he had jumper's knee, something that really hard to fix, but we just actually did him the other day. And
8 months.
Yeah.
First time I saw him was end of March, and he's been treated almost monthly. And last night when we checked his knees,
it was remarkable.
Minimal. So to me, the amount of pain patients have during the treatment coincides with what type of results they're going to get. And so over 8 months, he's probably 85-90% healed. We really had to turn the energy up to even find a couple pinpoint spots.
And by the way, on me, you couldn't even find a spot.
No, on your lumbar spine, and we distracted you. So, this technology has been around for over 40 years.
Yeah, let's talk about it though. Because if I was watching this, I'd be like, okay, why does it work for so many conditions, and what the heck are you guys talking about?
So high intensity lithotripsy for kidney stones has been around for 40 years. There's an 85% success rate. You get over 2,500 shock waves within a 40-minute procedure, and they're really isolated. We have some pictures of a kidney stone. That is the device. Those devices they use in hospitals are about $550,000, and they have an 85% success rate. So they actually, started using it for different pain applications, the non-healing fractures, and they thought that it had to be high energy. And what they realized as they started even going lower energy, the less intensity, there was still a biological response, which was great. And again, 11 years in the Austrian work comp system, they have more documented non-healing fractures over those 11 years. So shockwave is around us, even lightning and thunder, those are part of the natural disturbance of sound.
Right, but okay, someone's saying shockwave. Gosh, why does that create healing? Is what I would ask.
Yeah, and there's different ones, and we're going to get into it, but this is really on a cellular level. This is working, and it is like a cell attractant, so it's helping call for all these other helper cells to come to this area.
That's why it works.
And within 45 minutes, you're getting your own resident stem cells coming out of this dormant state.
That's why my doctors kind of nicknamed it the stem cell machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so people can understand, because it does. It basically gets your own dormant, sleeping, unvalved, these stem cells. I apologize for that. I don't know why that's going off, but basically awake again and working and able to actually perform.
And that high pressure, low pressure, it's like taking a thunderbolt and lightning and putting it into an applicator. The speed of sound travels at 767 miles per hour in air, and it's over 3,355 miles per hour in water. And that's what we're using. We're using electrohydraulically produced sound waves. So we're looking at that 3,355 miles per hour. So just like a supersonic plane that breaks through that barrier, we're taking that same type of pressure and velocity and putting it into, and we have a little video of how it works, so we'll be able to show the difference. And
yeah, you can play it out.
Yeah, in introduction of the shock wave, we're seeing this big spike and low spike. So it's the high pressure and then the low pressure, and it's in that negative pressure right in the bottom is where the biological response is happening.
Well, I think that's important to somebody watching this, because there are other devices on the market that you refer to and others as radial devices, right?
That's right.
So people go, oh, I've had this technology. Gainswave is one that's out there. It's kind of like the Kleenex name of
very generic.
Yeah, but those devices, when you do it on the privates, as an example, they hurt. But they also, when you do it somewhere else in the body, they don't go deep enough to
Right,
really
it's
last.
that
the healing
upper
effect.
level tissue.
Okay.
And I think we said it goes to about 50 millimeters or with 5 centimeters.
About 5
which is a
centimeters.
couple
But this
inches.
one goes about to 20 centimeters.
That's correct.
So it's deeper, which is obviously going to be more effective.
And again, working on a cellular level, and that high pressure, low pressure is reducing the oxidative stress around the cell membrane. So,
Okay, so if you look at this picture here.
you'll see the shock wave. There's a mechanical response. There's a biological response. There's a clinical response, and you're getting that shearing force that is releasing that oxidative stress around the cell membrane, allowing nutrients and proteins to get in, waste products, and exosomes to get out.
Mm-hmm. And that's why it works. Okay, so that's why it works.
And it also releases L-arginine and nitric oxide.
Listen, I've read the studies. It creates angiogenesis. What that means for you all is, one of the problems is getting enough tissue and healing capacity, blood flow into an area that doesn't heal. Whether it's one of the reasons my knee wouldn't heal, right? My disc in my back wouldn't heal. But this can increase that blood flow and therefore the healing. And it's actually proven to actually do that. Correct?
Absolutely.
We started the study.
And I've traveled all over the country and internationally, and I've talked to pain doctors, and I said, where is the pain? And no one can tell me where pain comes from. But I know when we put this device on areas of pain, the pain goes away. Mm-hmm. So I believe wherever there is pain, there's poor blood supply.
Well, I think I mentioned this earlier that sports teams are utilizing this even before injury because they're actually putting it somewhere. In the pain, the areas that, like, when you first do it, I mean, okay, you're on my nothing, no, I don't feel anything. Whoa, right there.
Right there.
It only responds, yeah, right there. That's what people, it only responds to the bad tissue, the damaged tissue. So therefore, you can do it on a knee that may not hurt and find the area that you would have injured. And sports teams, how many sports teams are actually utilizing this? And obviously for injuries as well.
Yeah, we've got the LA Lakers just purchased one over the summer. They use 4 different types of radial devices and piezoelectric devices, and basically traded one in for ours.
Meaning that different technology
yes,
that's been out there, that this is far superior.
Cleveland Indians, Chicago Cubs, Memphis Grizzlies, New York Knicks, New York Nets, Dr. Martin O'Malley, who's a foot and ankle specialist in New York and works with the Nets. He's the gentleman and the doctor who did Kevin Durant's Achilles surgery repair, and actually used the device right in his OR. So, and we have some really cool slides that we can show you how it helps with, healing damaged tissue and those scars. But the pulse, the radial, which we have a segment, but it's focused. It means a smaller area, so it's not treating as much area, but it's also a mechanical stylus that is pounding on that tissue. So it's an oscillation, a constant oscillation, as opposed to our high pressure, low pressure that is creating that energy.
And the bottom line is those sports teams are replacing these older devices, radio devices, with this newer technology. And I wanted you to point that out because I know that people go, oh, I've had that done, right? I know a friend had gains wave or whatever on his shoulder. Totally different concept here.
Even when we were featured on The Doctors last week, the gentleman,
the show, The Doctors,
he made the mistake of thinking that he has one of our devices when he in fact has a radial device.
Right, yeah, very
so
good. By the way, the radial device actually hurt me.
It's damaged my
wrist as well. In my neck, and it didn't work. So if you remember, the first time you used this on me, I was very cautious.
You were nervous.
Because I said, well, I had this done on me before, and you're like, no, totally different. You were right.
So there's 3 different types of shock waves that are generated in medicine. The one we have is electrohydraulically produced. That's spark in water. And again, that's 3,355 miles per hour. There's electromagnetic, which is a coil membrane that I believe Storz has a device they use. And then there's a piezoelectric technology. So people will get confused between the 3. Our technology, the stem cell machine powered by TRT, is the most expensive. But, most of the research that we've seen out of Austria and Germany, you need less visits and you get better outcomes.
Well, one of the things I've heard you say, doctors, if you're watching, we have both here, don't make a $25,000 mistake.
That's right.
Meaning that, okay, there's a $25,000 difference here, right? But it's a far different outcome. And by the way, the studies are really around this device, and that's the problem too. It's because people market a lot of the studies from the other devices when it's not.
And most of the doctors we meet through your events, as soon as they start researching and Googling, they're like, oh my gosh, why don't I just get this cheaper radial device? And, it has about 1/8 of the biological response. So really, our patented technology in what's called, and I have a slide that comes up, it is the parabolic reflector that creates an unfocused. So it treats about the bottom surface of a can.
Yeah.
And so that much area, you need less time, and you're getting those better results. So that's really, we have over 43 patents on this technology.
I'll say this now, so if you're someone interested in this technology, for any reason, a doctor or someone interested in this technology for themselves, click the link below, and we'll get you the information you need. Okay, go ahead.
So some of the slides we're going to show now are specifically with the OrthoGold 100. In this one picture, you're going to see that's our CEO, John Warlick from TRT, and that is Dr. John D. Mullins. He's a plastic surgeon and wound care specialist. And these are the first slides we've ever shown of this one gentleman. And that top one, he walked away. He was a diabetic neuropathy patient. He walked around with a piece of glass stuck in his foot for 10
by the way,
days.
Diabetic neuropathies, they don't heal. That's the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, even though neuropathy is a nerve issue, the underlying issue is a blood flow. And that's really what our clinic works with. So on the slide below, that's 2 weeks. We treated this gentleman once a week.
So it had probably been that way for years, actually. I mean,
no, it was 10 days.
No, I'm saying not healing as far as his diabetic part. Then the glass problem.
He was uncontrolled diabetic, brittle diabetic, and possibly an alcoholic. And Piedmont Hospital said, look, this guy is definitely getting an amputation. If you guys can help him, we'll buy one.
Yeah.
And so the slide below is, you can see that area just around it, never scarred over, there was never a scab. And
that's stem cells.
That's right. That's exactly what Dr. Thomas Lu said. That is what the stem cells.
Absolutely.
And that's 2 weeks after. So every week we
went
in there.
Call it the stem cell machine.
And and you can see the matrix being laid down. At the first part, I was able to stick my finger that far into that wound, and it just over the 6 or 8 weeks, it was actually.
I'm going to ask the question. They're watching. Why would you do that?
Because I wanted to find the depth of it and what we were dealing with.
Just ask me.
But that is the last picture. Unfortunately, this gentleman, he passed away. He was also on dialysis. And
they gave you your worst case. He was an alcoholic still drinking, by the way.
But I mean, we got that close. So this will be a case study we hope to present in Vienna in June of 2020. Again, the reflector, the energy, the way we're able to direct that energy through that parabolic reflector, and I know most people don't really care, but it can go 20 centimeters into the body, almost 10 to 11 inches. So that's why Thomas Lu has it at University of California, San Francisco. He's using it on an organ regeneration technology.
Yeah, well, it has to go with that depth, with the power of that depth to actually affect the organs.
This is Mr. Cobb. He was the gentleman, he had chronic congestive heart failure, plus he had the LVAD device, so that external pump that helps pump blood throughout his body, waiting for a heart transplant. These gentlemen or patients, if they don't get the heart transplant, they typically will die from an infection into that internal lead. And this is his case study. Again, John Mullins.
But here's the thing that some people may not understand, is we're actually using this in cavitations, which are hidden infections in the jaw. This has an effect on pathogens, whether it be virus or bacteria. Explain that, because that's another reason why it actually works on some of these infections.
It has an antimicrobial effect.
Yeah.
So somehow it's killing those germs on, topical and
what I read is how it shears the membrane and creates an exosome in a healthy cell. And that's a great thing. On a virus, it shears the membranes and they die because they don't produce exosomes.
and so we've used it on infected dog bites, spider bites that got infected.
Your dog?
Yeah, that's right. My Great Dane.
On
Labor Day,
Copperhead,
Copperhead, and almost lost one of its digits on its paw. and we successfully treated our puppy with 3 days of 500 shockwaves on the lower intensity. So pretty cool technology. The cardiac regenerative technology that's coming down the line. We've treated 10 patients in a pilot study in Germany, and after post-surgery, they had open heart surgery. We used the shockwave on during the open heart on the area with scar tissue, and they had a 20% improvement in ejection fractions post-treatment. Yeah. So that's awesome. To compare that, if they did stem cells in the heart, the best they ever got was 5% improvement in ejection fraction.
Yeah, which actually shows you it's doing more than just the stem cell stimulation too. I mean, honestly, obviously it works on pathogens. Obviously, it downregulates inflammation a little bit differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
I mean, with the cytokines and the interleukin 10 and interleukin 6. I mean, and again, this is unfocused. If people get a little confused, it took me some months to understand it, but unfocused means less pain with treatments. Unfocused means higher treatment efficiency rate. It also has lower retreatment rate. Treatments do not require anesthesia or numbing cream. That's the big thing with
you're saying in comparison with the older technology of the radial devices.
The radial focus, that's right. All right. And then again, we're treating larger surface areas, and they're healing faster.
Well, and it's again another reason why it affects organ systems, whereas the older technology wouldn't.
That's right. So last December 2018, we got a 501k clearance, and then just last week, at the end of November, we got Class 2 clearance for wounds and diabetic ulcers. So that's really a big breakthrough. Awesome. And excited. We have a picture here of, working with some stroke patients, and just serendipity. They came in because they had neuropathy, and this one gentleman, Frankie, who we have a picture here, we used some low-level lasers on him, and then he was able to move his hand a little bit, and he just was like, how come my skin is so white underneath there? And I said, it hasn't seen the light of day in 20 years. And then we used the shockwave or stem cell machine right on his hand, and we were able to open it up. And this is the treatment. This is his reaction. This is Mr. Smith, gets movement in his hand 20 years later.
All right, let's watch it.
Mr. Smith, why you got your hand like that? What's going on? Tell me.
Well, I just had a similar.
You had the shockwave treatment, yeah. What about, and the lights? What did you think?
I thought it was very good.
How come? Tell me what's different about your hand.
Because I can move it, opening it all the way like.
How long has it been since you've been able to do that?
20 years.
That's
so,
awesome.
I mean, it's funny if you think about. I mean, I'm a chiropractor. You're trained as a chiropractor as well. But when Didi Palmer came through, I mean, the first person he talked about was Harvey Lillard, right?
Yeah.
Who was blind.
Yeah.
And after Harvey, Didi thought he found a cure for blindness, and so a lot of his word of mouth was, "Hey,
well, this guy thought he had a cure for hands."
Exactly. And so, the word gets out, and we keep seeing more and more stroke patients that we're working with, and we've got about a 50% success rate right now with some great benefits. But again, healing takes time, and we're excited about that because it seems like every 2 years, TRT is actually kind of reinventing themselves in what they're working with. From the non-healing fractures to the wounds, erectile dysfunction, the cardiac piece of this, and now working with strokes and some other patients, it's going to be.
It's like obviously those countries you mentioned, Germany, Austria, that they were way ahead of us on this. We're just now. I mean, all this technology came out of lithotripsy, which is breaking up kidney stones, right? I mean, that's amazing that we've come from that to this.
So how does the shockwave therapy activate these stem cells? We have some animal studies that we're going to show here, but the effects of that low energy shockwave therapy on erectile function and tissue on a diabetic rat model. And you can see
that's a study you're looking at here.
Yeah, that's a study.
Okay.
So again, Thomas Liu, who's world-renowned neurologist, he's pumping out about 17 of these papers per year, and basically they're seeing within 8 to 10 weeks after this treatment, you have your own production and migration of the stem cells to that treated area.
Yeah, and that's
so short term. We want to see less pain, better range of motion, decreased inflammation and swelling, improved circulation. But the long term is really these biological effects that are happening.
Let me tell you what that means, folks. And because the older we get, the harder it is and the slower healing takes place. I think we've all experienced that as we've gotten older.
That's right.
But really, to make it simple, is you have stem cells. We all have stem cells, or we'd be dead. But they become less valuable. They become too many sleepers. This technology wakes them up into healing, and that's why. Now, granted, you heard me say it worked on my 18-year-old. It brought healing and stem cells to the area. But I think the older we get, the more it becomes important and even more dramatic, because we can wake up our own body's ability to heal itself via stem cells.
And we see those pictures of the mitochondrial before shockwave and after.
You were just showing my daughter that. I mean, just lit up the difference. And by the way, I would argue that the mitochondria is why people have brain fog, why people don't have energy at the end of the day, why their adrenals are failing, their thyroid is failing. All of those are technically why you can't lose weight. Those are technically mitochondrial diseases or dysfunction. And we know this technology changes the mitochondria almost instantly.
Again, on a cellular basis. And that was one of the first studies that was published out of Germany. And think about it, your mitochondria are your powerhouse to your cells. And so
that's
every
birthday,
energy, every birthday we have, those mitochondria get a little weaker and a little weaker.
Absolutely.
And that's why, I mean, when we're using this on our older patients, and my average patient is 68 years old in our Atlanta clinic, it's almost like an anti-aging. They get this spark. And
that's why I'm doing my privates, by the way.
We're going to keep those young. But, I mean, that's what we're looking at. And it is working on a mitochondrial level, and you're seeing this increased production of ATP. So it goes from an anaerobic, which is less efficient without the use of oxygen, to an aerobic.
Right.
If you remember the Krebs cycle.
And I have to point out, we've been drawing the difference of what's been on the market, the radial devices, and this device. This is an important point. You're talking about all the science around what's happening in the mitochondria. That's the cell. The older technology doesn't affect the cell, only the tissue.
That's right.
Not the cell. This technology is the one that actually gets into the cell, into the mitochondria.
Both of them are tricking the body into thinking there's a new injury.
Right.
And again, our body.
The mechanical does that.
Yes.
But this one goes to the cell.
Cellular level, and a deeper level. Yeah, so there's another study that shows in vitro study.
Okay, so look at that study right there.
48 hours post-operatively, shockwave was delivered to the pelvic region with a special probe that attached to the electrohydraulic unit with a focus shockwave. Okay, so this is our parent company MTS out of Germany, and it's called the Dermagold or Uragold.
So it was basically just, again, showing its effect on erectile dysfunction in this case. So next, go ahead.
Next one. This one is out of the Journal of Sexual Medicine. Again, Thomas Liu, he's one of the co-authors on all these studies. And this is in situ activation of penile progenitor cells with low intensity extracorporeal shockwave therapy. So when they say low intensity extracorporeal shockwave therapy, they're talking specifically about the MTS unit that is distributed here in the States by TRT.
Yeah. And I'll say again, interested in this technology, doctors watching, whether it's for your clinic, I believe that, I told my docs this, that everyone needs this in their clinic today. I mean, why wouldn't you want this? I would have it in my clinic, if I still had a brick and mortar clinic, instantaneously. I mean, I wouldn't even without a thought. Click the link. If you're interested as a doctor, but also if you just want to find a doctor with this technology, click the link. Go ahead.
And the beautiful thing is your doctors of health centers of the future, they're going to start having this technology, as well as the pulse centers, as well as some of your oxygen. Everything you used on Daniel, every doctor in every clinic has to have that. We have to have it in every major community.
Absolutely. That's my passion behind it, man. That's why we're doing this.
I want this one, the stem cell machine, I really say it's regenerative medicine in a box. I mean, you can add this without having necessarily to go with stem cells or exosomes. You can utilize this and really activate your own body's natural stem cells.
But if you're already doing stem cells, I had it done before I got some stem cells. And I've had stem cells done with and without it, to be clear. But I had it done before and then immediately, after, and then the week after, 2 weeks after, because it stimulates the healing.
Right, and it calls for those exosomes to come right to that
back
treated area.
Into that area. Yeah.
In a lot of these regenerative medicine clinics, they'll use it prior, and they'll find those really high painful areas, and that's where they'll inject. They'll use that marker and mark right there. So there might be 2 points.
Right, because it's diagnostic. Again, it only affects the damaged tissue.
That's right.
So you can find out there it is. I know when I used it on my posterior knee, it just lit up that area. It was actually deeper and more anterior than I thought. the pain was projecting a little posterior, but it was a spot that was up here on my knee, and then I had him inject that spot and get the TRT done.
And it's just, it pairs so well with him. So this one just talks about the different biological, physiological effects. You have the shearing stress, you have the nitric oxide synthesis, you have the VEGF.
Okay, well, nitric oxide synthesis. That means it makes something called nitric oxide that prevents heart attacks, increases healing, downregulates inflammation, and is anti-aging.
And creates vasodilation.
Yeah,
so
exactly. All of that. Yeah.
The VEGF is vascular endothelial growth factor.
Which is healing, right? And the lower that goes, the more tissue can't heal, so that's a good thing.
And then you have the endothelial progenitor cell recruitment. And this is where, again, it's calling for these other helper cells to come, the cytokines, the interleukin 10, the interleukin 6, to actually stop inflammation. So again, anti-inflammatory, neovascularization, a little different from angiogenesis. Angiogenesis, the increase of blood supply.
Yeah,
Neovascular is 10 to 12 weeks later, you actually have new blood pathways.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, and then we have local perfusion increased, and then the vasodilation. So these are all referenced. You'll see this slide.
So, I mean, there's studies showing it does that, which explains at the top of this interview, whatever we want to call this webinar, what the heck to call it. But at the top of this, I said, how in the world does it work for so many different conditions? That kind of gives life to why it does.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
The versatility of this device. I mean, Thomas Lu said every urologist is going to have this in 2 to 3 years, or their clinics will be antiquated like that of a flip phone from 2008. Orthopedists need it for non-healing fractures. Chiropractors, it gives us superhero healing powers, I believe.
My seminar is called Health Centers of the Future. So that's why I was like, you all need this in your clinic, man. It's like, this is Health Center of the Future. Yeah.
So it induces microvessel release after shockwave therapy. So there's an actual slide and research paper that shows the difference in the vessels after the treatment. So it releases exosomes and prohibits fibrosis after myocardial
Okay, so exosomes, to be clear, and we've mentioned that word a few times, stem cells release these exosomes as communication molecules to stimulate your own body in healing. So this is, if stem cells is the future of medicine, exosomes is the future of stem cells.
And if I could say right now, I mean, like you say, stem cells is the future of medicine. It seems like it's the future for very wealthy people and pro athletes. This stem cell machine is really for the working man.
It's a way to bring this technology to the average person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For the blue collar guy that can't really afford stem cells or exosomes right now, but this is a wonderful, in the algorithm of health, you don't start with the most expensive. You start with the least invasive, less expensive.
We've mentioned a lot of different conditions, but I know that my wife read something and she immediately had it done on her face. So talk about that, because she was doing it for cosmetic reasons.
Right. I mean, there's some wonderful studies that help show that it changes the actual tissue, especially in cellulite. It's bringing blood flow. You're getting better elasticity in the skin. And in turn, we hope less wrinkles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't have an aesthetic clinic right now, but we have been using it on my wife and my daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
Well.
We're using it, but it brings that to the average person too, by the way. Okay, go ahead.
Releases exosomes and preserves cardiac function after heart attacks. Again, that's a beautiful function. Again, clinical data for ED. This is where we're starting to see a boatload of this information coming down the pike from Thomas Lu in his. But again, the stem cell machine is regenerative therapy for erectile dysfunction. And it's not just for men, they're showing it for women as well. So it's couples therapy. And
well, by the way, once I started getting it done, it was almost insisted upon my wife needs to get it done.
Sure. And
I won't talk about that.
But I mean, you were one of the first couples that we were able to use this technology on. So again, you're at the forefront of this. So a wonderful technology. It shows why, again, you don't need numbing cream. The other radial devices, they say they're painless, but ours is literally pain-free, and there's no numbing cream.
Yeah, you don't feel. Well, let me be clear. It's painful in the private. Painless in the privates. But when you're doing it on a joint, you're literally finding the spot that lights up. Then it can be turned down. But you are looking for that place where the damage is in the joint.
That's right. You know, this last slide I showed, it's really my pursuit. And from The Pursuit of Happiness, Will Smith played that gentleman, and he carried that little, he would test the osteoporosis levels in the bones. I mean, I'm on a mission because, and thank you so much for helping me bring this to our doctors in this country.
Changed my family, man.
Yeah, and it's been wonderful. And you were one of the first people to really accept this. And I mean, I was pounding the doors. Even a lot of doctors say, Matt, you're persistent. You don't stop. And it really took a lot for you to accept this and bring this to your doctors. And I'm so appreciative that you believed in this technology and allowed us to use. I'll never forget, just to go back to Daniel's, I was texting you the day or the day and a half after Daniel's injury, and I was quoting the study, the pilot study out of Austria. Within 72 hours of any spinal cord injuries, they're using this on their spinal cord injury patients. And it's been mandated now as of July of this past year. So in the early studies, it showed a 50% reduction in paralysis. Shepherd Spine Center, one of the top rehab centers in this country, has one as well. So we're seeing this adopted. It's at Mayo Clinic, it's at Cleveland Clinic, Baylor University, University of California, San Francisco. Why are the top universities accepting this, right?
Yeah, and you were kind enough, by the way, to make this happen for Daniel. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Because his healing, no doubt, was partly due to this technology.
And it's funny, the full circle.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for him traveling through.
Believe me, there's a whole God thing there for me, but we won't get into that. But no, I mean, I'm fully, in on this because the world needs it. Like you said, there's people who can't afford some of those amazing stem cell treatments, but this is a way of bringing that healing. So I appreciate it. And folks, if you're watching, again, interested in this technology, doctors for your clinic, come on, click the link below, and Matt will get back with you. We'll get back with you and answer those questions. And just those looking for this technology, there's not many doctors yet in this country, but we'll hook you up with one that has this technology. So no matter what, we're going to bring it.
Excellent.
Many people.
Softwave Therapies Providers.com, I believe, and we'll show you that.
Yeah, no, we'll bring all that to you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.